Hey everybody, this is Frida from All Around Gifted, and I'm going to be doing my very first tutorial today. It's going to be on a double layered fleece hat. This hat works up really fast. It's a fun hat to make. You don't have to know how to use a sewing machine to make this. The one I will be making in the tutorial, I will be using a sewing machine, but you can do the same thing by sewing it with your hands. So if you will just hold on a second, I'll show you what it looks like and what supplies you're going to need. Okay, so I'm back to show you what we're going to be making today. This is the hat that I'm going to show you in the tutorial how to make. And it has the little cut strips of fleece up here. It's folded up so you can have a little brim. And as you can see, I used 2 layers of fleece. One for my main color and one for my accent color. And it's actually USC Gamecocks. Go Cox! Okay, and you're going to need 2 fabrics of your choice, 2 pieces of fleece of your choice. I have this one, and I have my black piece. You're going to need something to measure with, either a tape measure or a yardstick. You're going to need scissors. You're going to need stick pins. And if you're going to do this by hand, you will need needle and thread to match your fabric. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so one of the first things you want to do is you want to take your 2 pieces of fabric. You want to put right sides together. Okay, and if you have a print and the print is going one way, make sure that when you cut that fabric, that the print will be going down towards the face and not up towards the head, unless it's a print that really doesn't matter. In this case, I have a print that has the Gamecocks emblems and USC, South Carolina all over it, and I want that to be facing down towards the face and not be upside down once I make the hat. So you want to put your right sides together. You want to get your edges as even as possible with each other. Okay. Then the next thing you want to do, you're going to need your head measurement. So I'm going to use Naya here as an example. If you already know the head measurement, that's fine. I'm going to measure around her head. And hers is 23. And you're going to need the length from the top, center of the head, down below the ear. So I have 8 inches. So I have 23 around, 8 inches from top to bottom. Now what you're going to do with that, you're going to take the 23 and you need to add your seam allowance. So I'm going to give probably about a 1/2 inch seam allowance. You can do more if you want. So you're going to take your tape measure. You're going to measure across. And I'm going to measure 23 inches across. Plus I'm going to add a 1/2 inch or to 1 inch for my seam allowance. So let me see if I can zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm measuring from the end of my fabric all the way across to where the 24 is where I'm going to stop at. So 23 was the circumference of her head, and I'm going to go over to 24 because I'm going to actually do it 20. Well, I can do 23. Now keep in mind that fleece stretches. Another thing too, when you lay your fleece out, you want to make sure you lay it where the stretch goes this way, not this way. If your stretch goes up and down, you're going to have a long hat. So you want it to go sideways, lengthwise. This way it'll fit around the head. So I'm going to measure over 24 inches, 23.5 inches. And I'm going to take my stick pins. And I'm going to, I'm going to pin right at the 23.5 mark, and I'm going to bring my tape measure up, keeping it even on the edge, and I'm going to pin 23.5. Now you can take a pen if you like, ink pen or something, and you can just put little lines like I'm doing with the pins here, but just be careful and make sure that it doesn't bleed through or anything. So I'm going up 23.5 because I have a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Next, I'm going to take that 8 inches that I had from the top of her head to below her ear. I know I want to have a 2-inch brim, okay? So I know when I fold this up, I want this to probably be, well, about 3 inches, okay? So when I fold this, I want this to be 3 inches, at least 3 inches. You can make it smaller if you like. I know at the top, the fringe here, I want this to be 3 inches. So I know I had 8 inches plus 3 for my fold and 3 for my top. So 3 and 3 is 6 plus 8 is 14. And I'm going to need a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So I'm going to need 14.5 inches going up and down, lengthwise, height-wise. So I'm going to start down here on my cut edge, and I'm going to put my tape measure here at 14, okay, and a half. And I'm going to put a pin up here. You can make it a little longer if you like. It doesn't hurt. Actually, I'm going to go 15. I'm going to put a pin here. I'm going to move over, put a pin all the way across. And it doesn't have to be exact. You want it as close as possible, but it doesn't have to be exact. So I'm going to go all the way over to my edge, measuring 15, and putting my pins on it to mark where I need to cut. So I'm going to see if I can zoom in so you can see what I'm talking about. I'm sorry guys, this is my first tutorial, so please bear with me. I have my stick pins going across here for the length, and I have my stick pins going on this edge right here, which would be for the circumference. Okay? Just going to put one more. Alright, so I had 23 plus a 1/2 inch for my seam allowance. I had 8 plus a 3-inch fold plus 3 inches for my fringe, which gave me 14, and I added a 1/2 inch. Okay? Next, I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut right just a little outside those stick pins, so you don't have to move them. You can actually just go right beside them, and I'm going to cut straight up right beside those stick pins. And I'm going to go all the way to the edge. Okay? Now where I put those stick pins for the top part, I'm going to cut just right above those, right close to my pins as possible. Okay. You also want to cut a strip of whichever color you want. You want to just cut probably about a 2-inch, 1-inch strip. And this is what you're going to use to tie the top of your hat with. So it doesn't have to be perfect and even. You just want to cut a strip. Alright. Now the next thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to pin my edges and make sure that they're nice and even, so when I sew it, well, I don't want to pin that side. Pin down on the bottom. You can remove the pins from the top. And you can remove the pins from the sides. You won't be needing those. What you're going to need is to pin across the bottom here, because this is where you're going to be sewing first. So I'm just going to put my pins all the way down across the bottom. Forgive that beeping sound. That is my smoke detector. The battery's actually dying in it and I need to get it replaced. Okay, so I have that pinned across the bottom and all my edges look good. I'm just cleaning up a little bit here. Okay, so the next step will be at the sewing machine. Okay, so the next thing you want to do is thread your machine with the color thread that you're going to be using for your fabric. And you want to go ahead and sew your half an inch or 1 inch, whatever seam allowance you decided to use. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to sew all the way down this edge, and I will be right back to show you what it looks like. Okay, so once you've sewn your seam allowance on your fabric like that, you want to open your fabric out, and you want to fold it in half. Okay, so this is the part that's already been sewn. You want to open it out like that, and then you want to take it and fold it over in half. You want to make sure that your seams meet, and it's going to be real important. So make sure that your seams meet. Okay, and then you want to pin all the way down here. You want to pin all the way down on each end. So you want to match these seams up, and you want to pin all the way across. Okay, and I'll show you when I get back. Okay, so I've pinned my raw edges together all the way down on both sides. Okay, and what I've done, I stopped 3 inches from the top. So whatever you decided you wanted your fringe to be, you don't want to sew all the way down, because you want to leave that open so when you cut it, you don't have a seam. So if you stop 4 inches from the top or whatever, you just want to measure down wherever you decided how long you wanted your fringe. I wanted mine 3 inches. So I stopped pinning right there at 3 on both sides. Do that on both sides, okay? So I stopped right there, and this part I'm not going to sew. Another thing too that I forgot to mention, on your sewing machine, if you're doing this on your sewing machine, you want to set your stitch length to a long stitch length. You don't want it to be tight, and you don't want a very short stitch length, because fleece, it can bunch up. So you want to make sure you use a long stitch length on your machine. So I'm going to sew from pin to pin on each end, and I'll be back to tell you what's next. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've sewn my seams together, right sides together. So I've already sewn that down. Now what you want to do, you want to flip it right side out. So just stick your hand in there and turn it right side out. Okay, and it should look something like that. Now you're going to take your liner piece, and you want to pull it through so it's on the inside of your hat. So get all that down in there. Get it nice and smooth. And on your back side, that opening you had, it should look like this. Okay? Because this is where I'm going to be tying and cutting these little strips to get my little fringe on top. Doesn't matter if it's uneven, that's fine. So now what you want to do is on the bottom of your hat, right where you stitch the two pieces together, you want to fold that over, because you want to top stitch all the way around. So what I like to do is I like to fold it down like that, and I pin it. So I'm going to pin, I pin all the way around. So I'm going to pin this all the way around, and then I'm going to put it on my sewing machine, and I'm going to top stitch just right on that edge. And I'll show you how I top stitch mine. Okay? Be right back. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've pinned my edges down. Okay? And now I'm going to sew on the sewing machine all the way around a top stitch. So I'm going to remove that. And I like to start from the back where the seam is, and I put that up under my foot. And what I do is I just let the foot ride right on the edge of the fabric. I don't know if you can see that, but right on the edge of the fabric is where I like to stitch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch all the way around the edge, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've gone ahead and done my top stitching, and this is what it looks like. I don't know if you can see that. And it just gives a nice little clean finish. It's not something that you have to do. It's just something that I like to do. And like I was telling you, if you have a print, a one-way print, you want to make sure that print is coming down. See, this is the bottom of my hat, and see how you can see South Carolina and the Gamecock. So when the hat is turned up like that, you can still see my writing, and it's going the right way instead of going upside down. Now, all the sewing is finished. The next part is just tying it off and cutting your fringe. So you want to do is stick your hands inside your hat like this and smooth it out. You want to make sure it's nice and smooth as possible. Okay? And that piece of fabric that you cut for your strip, okay, let me grab mine. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I have my little strip here that I'm going to use to tie the top of my hat. Now what I want to do is, I'm just going to get this as even as possible. And I'm just going to take this in my hand and just, you know, squeeze it like that. I'm going to take my little tie and I'm going to come right where I cut it at. And I'm going to tie it. I'm not going to pull it really tight yet. I want to make sure I have it even. Okay, so I got that nice and even. And then I'm going to tie it. I'm going to pull it really tight. And I'm going to tie the knot. Okay, and I'm not going to cut it yet. Next thing I want to do is just kind of take my hand, stick it in the hat, and kind of even these little folds. Kind of make it a little bit even around. Okay, so just kind of distribute it pretty much around the top of the hat. Okay, so this is what it should be looking like so far. Okay, and if you turn that up, you got the bottom of your hat. Next thing to do now is you want to cut your little fringe. You can cut it 2 at a time by holding it like that and then cutting your little strips. It doesn't matter how wide you want to cut it. It's totally up to you. I usually take mine and cut 1 layer at a time. And they're probably about, I don't know, maybe 1/4 of an inch, 1/3 of an inch. You don't want them too skinny. So, you know, because they're, they will twirl up on you. So I'm cutting these probably about maybe 1/2 inch or so. So you want to do that all the way around. Just want to stick your scissors in there and cut. Be careful that you don't cut a hole in anything. This actually is the longest part. Making the hat is a lot quicker than even cutting these little strips here. So as you can see, I'm cutting these little strips. And then once I cut all my red ones, I'm going to go back and cut the black. So I'll see you in a few moments. Okay, so now your hat should look like this. You should have all your fringe cut. Now those 2 ties that you use to tie the knot, you want to take those and you want to measure them with the strips you just cut and just cut it. And they should blend right in. So I'm going to cut that in a strip. Okay. Now all you have to do is turn your hat up, your brim. And there you have it. A nice, warm, cozy winter hat. Okay, I hope these directions and instructions were clear. You know, please forgive me for if it's, you know, not the best. It is my first. And I really wanted to show this to you all. So please leave comments, constructive criticism, please. Anything you think I might could do better. I know there's a lot that I need to do better, but I just wanted to show you this really fun and simple hat. Thanks for watching. Bye.